Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast with Michelle Chalfant, a place to delve into who we are, how we got that way, and explore what it takes to be a healthy grown-up. With an extensive toolbox and guests with varied expertise, Michelle will lead us on a journey to learn what it's like to live authentically and to love ourselves just the way we are. And now, here's Michelle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to June, which is insane. I feel like I just said, hello, it's May. This is kind of crazy, but May slipped away and here we are in June. I hope everyone is having a wonderful end of school year. I know so many of us have children that are finishing school, graduating, weddings. It's such a busy, busy time of year. And however, I know many people up in the north, if you're at least in the United States, I remember growing up in New York, we didn't ever get out of school till the end of June. So I'm sure you all are getting ready for that if you live up north. But yeah, here we are in June. I had a wonderful time. If you saw me on Instagram, I was posting there about, we dropped our older son off up in New York City over the weekend for his summer internship. So I can't even believe it. He just got home from Barcelona and he just turned around and for 6 weeks, he was home and then, which was wonderful. And then boom, he's gone again for the whole summer. And then he gets home in August and then back in school for his senior year of college, which is crazy to me. So anyway, I hope you all are having a wonderful June, whatever you're doing. And I know people on the other side of the world, maybe in Australia, are starting to get cold over there. So whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a wonderful time. I today am chatting with you all about jealousy. For some reason, people keep hitting me up to talk about jealousy over the last few months. And I look down at my list. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk about jealousy. So today's the day. But first, I do have to thank our sponsor, Care Of. They are a subscription service that delivers vitamins and supplements customized for your specific health needs. This is a wonderful way to give your summer a boost, whether you're looking for energy or better sleep or stress reduction or anything else to help you to feel healthy. The way they do this is what sold me is with their online quiz. It's like a 5-minute quiz, and it will ask you about your diet, your health goals, lifestyle options. It only takes 5 minutes, and it kicks out this report, and it will give you a personal, scientifically backed vitamin and supplement recommendation. It's the coolest thing. The other thing that this company now offers, which I enjoy every day for lunch, are protein powders. I make a smoothie every day and I use these protein powders. They have wonderful on-the-go little packets as well as tubs. And they are personalized, again, to your fitness goals and dietary preferences. And you can modify your subscription at any time when your needs or preferences change. So give this company a try. And they are offering all of us 25% off our first Care Of order. All you have to do is go to takecareof.com and enter promo code ADULT. Again, that's 25% off your first order. Go to takecareof.com and enter promo code ADULT. All righty. We're going to jump right in now to jealousy. It's a really, really good topic. And people ask me, I know clients have come in and said, what's wrong with me? I'm so jealous. What chair is that? Which is such a great, great, great question. Jealousy is a real emotion. I should say this. Let me back up. It can be a real emotion from our from our child chair. It's an emotion. Jealousy is an emotion. If my friend chooses another friend to do something and ignores me, I may feel jealous of my friend because I want to be chosen. I want to go to the party too, or I want to go to the event too. And why didn't I get chosen? So some jealousy might come up. That's a real emotion from that little inner child part of us that sits in that child chair. Also, things like within our families, maybe when my dad treats my sister with more kindness or takes her places and buys her more things, I might grow up in that household feeling jealous. I might be an adult and still feel jealous. That's a natural emotion to feel. When my husband is clearly flirting with another woman at a party, my jealousy might come up. But jealousy can also come from our adolescent chair. It can be a projection of our childhood wounding when it comes up and it can feel like out of control, it's really interesting. Or I like to say this, jealousy is just a projection of our own insecurities. Again, that's all adolescent chair. But regardless of where jealousy is coming from, today I really just want to offer you some solid ideas on what to do when jealousy creeps up for you or someone that you know. And if you know someone that's jealous, you can hand them this podcast and hopefully it'll help them as well. I just want to go over a few more facts about jealousy. So jealousy creates suffering. Think about that. Jealousy happens when we feel threatened. Jealousy focuses on the negative. And like I said, it can be a projection of our own insecurities. But I also feel like it can be a guide. Okay. Because if we see someone, let's say we're in a relationship with someone and they're doing something that is clearly not good, whether it be they're flirting with someone or just paying too much attention to someone else, that jealousy comes up, I think, also as part of our intuition. It's an emotion from the child and then kicks in that intuition, like something's going on. So let it then propel you forward to have a conversation, which I'm going to get to that in a minute. So I really enjoy coming up with steps or various ideas for this podcast. So I've come up with 8 different ideas about jealousy for you today. So this is what we need to do to begin to change this within ourselves, okay? So if you're someone that's jealous, the first thing we want to do is raise our awareness around jealousy. Raise our awareness. That means notice when you're feeling this emotion of jealousy. Oftentimes we find ourselves in full-blown jealousy. We don't even notice when it starts to creep up. It sort of happens unconsciously. And before we know it, we're in this full-out anger or rage, and we're so upset, and we feel completely out of control. So if we know that we are someone that might have issues with jealousy, we first want to just raise our awareness around it so we can catch ourselves when we start going down that path. Then we have a chance of correcting ourselves before we get into this out of control anger place. Okay. That's what we're talking about here. Because so many people that I know, when they go into jealousy, it just takes them over. Like they can't even think straight. They're just filled with jealousy. You hear that statement from people. I'm filled with jealousy. I can't even see straight. I can't think straight. So when we raise our awareness around jealousy, we then have the opportunity to catch ourselves before we fall out into the deep end and we can't think straight. So with raised awareness, when we start to feel jealous, we're going to do some things. And here are some ideas. We want to ask ourselves from our adult chair, what is real? Jealous thoughts, remember, are not the same things as reality. So we need to climb into our adult chair and ask ourselves, what's real? What's fact and truth? Jealousy, let me tell you what, it can take us on a wild ride into the land of fantasy that is not even true. Remember, we go into story and assumption, man, we just start adding to what we think we are seeing in front of us or think we're hearing, and we fluff up this whole story that's not even real. This is why when we start asking ourselves, what's fact and truth? It's a game changer. It takes us out of the story. It takes us out of our jealousy drama and brings us into reality. So when I say what's real, it's like we got to get into our reality. One thing that I've suggested to my clients to do in the past has been to write down the facts and truth about what you're even jealous about. It can be so eye-opening to write down facts and truth and look at them in front of you. You look at that list and it sheds so much light on this jealousy. I worked with a client and she was jealous of her boyfriend and his connections with other women in the office. So he was in sales and he managed a very large team of people, and over half, I think it was like 75% of them were women. So of course, my client was getting so jealous she couldn't even see straight because she kept going into, he would come home and talk about what he did at work and he would tell her about it. And then she would just go into these fits of anger because she was so jealous. So we worked on this, and he was completely confused by her jealousy because he really, really loved her. And she continued to keep getting tripped up and falling into jealousy, and she could not shake the jealousy. So one day when she came in, I said, you know what? Let's write down what is fact and truth and what's real about what's going on with your boyfriend at work. Okay. And we wrote some things down like, we have been together for 3 years. Fact. He tells me he loves me every day, multiple times a day. Fact. He works with other women. Fact. He has never cheated on me. Fact. He's good looking. Fact. Women find him attractive. Fact. He invites me to come to all of his work functions and enjoys introducing me to his coworkers and the women that work for him. Fact. He tells me all the time that he wants to marry me. And my client actually said, I think he even bought me a ring. Fact. So that's a little bit of a guess about the ring, but everything else was fact. And it was interesting because we listed a bunch of other things too. And in the end, she looked at that list and I had her read it out loud. And this is the key here. We can read something out loud like this and do it from our adolescent chair. And it does hardly any shifting. It might create a little tiny shift. But what I'm trying to do with my clients always is to bring a shift or transformation into their lives. And the way we do that is to let this new truth solidify into the adult chair. How we get there is we have to slow everything down. So I asked her to read this list very, very slowly. And then I said, and when you read even one fact, I want you to drop it below your chin and feel it in your body. Remember, when we're chin up, I can read the list like this. Something like, well, he works with other women. He never cheated on me. He's good looking. He invites me to, it's like he invites me into work for all of his work functions. He tells me he wants to marry me. Yeah. But I still don't feel any better. That's what people would say to me all the time. So of course it doesn't work because we're sitting in the mind. It's like playing that ping pong game. No. What we want to do is have them feel their truth. So I asked my client, I said, now let's do it slowly. And I have them speak slowly. So if you're doing this at home for yourself, speak very slowly and feel in the body where these facts land. So, for example, he tells me every day that he loves me. He tells me every day that he loves me. Feel it. And you might notice your heart is expanding. You might notice your whole body relaxes, but that's when the body is catching up with what's going on in the mind. And that's where the transformation happens. We've got to slow down and solidify these truths. Then it becomes our truth versus just endless mind, more things we're just adding into the mind. One of the 90,000 or some of the 90,000 thoughts we have in a day, those 90,000 thoughts are mostly unconscious. We're just looking at things and having thoughts and opinions about them constantly throughout the day. But when we slow everything down, we let it land into the body. So anyway, I did this with my client and it was amazing because I remember the look on her face when she was done. I said, okay, now we're done with the list. Tell me how you feel now. And she looked at me and she's like, gosh, I feel so much relief. I feel so much relief. She's like, I almost feel silly for being so jealous. And I said, interesting. Great. I said, so take this list with you. And I want you to read this list every day. And if you find any more truths, which of course, if we pause and we slow down, we'll find them. I said, just go ahead and add to it. So that was her homework that I sent her away with. Doesn't it sound so ridiculously easy? All I'm saying is slow down, really slow down, and drop it below the chin and feel it in the body. I do this all the time. And people look at me with bug eyes like, wow, I didn't know I could shift that quickly just by slowing down. I'm like, yes. When we speak so quickly, it doesn't land on us. Okay. So anyway, moving on. Number 3, we're going to talk about triggers with jealousy. So this was interesting, taking that same client I was just telling you about. A month or so later, she came in and she said she was better. She said, I am no doubt better. I do not live with jealousy all the time like I did in the past. She says, this exercise totally changed me. And I said, fantastic. And she says, but I still have feelings of jealousy and they catch me off guard and I get so angry. She says, it's very infrequent, but is there any way that I can relieve myself of this jealousy? Because I know my boyfriend loves me. This jealousy makes absolutely no sense, but I keep having it. It keeps rising up within me and I get so angry and we have arguments and he doesn't understand, et cetera, et cetera. When this happens, after we've done the previous step that I just mentioned, I start wondering, okay, is there a trigger? There's something is triggering her that we need to go deeper within. So, because remember when we're triggered, sometimes we go into that trigger and we get so angry so quickly, we don't have a moment to think about it. That's different than that jealousy that's creeping in. This is a trigger that's kicking off the emotion of jealousy. So it's a little bit different, but still part of jealousy, but just linking it with a trigger. So the first thing we need to do is look at our own projections and work on busting open the filter that is creating the trigger. If you guys remember, I just recently did a whole podcast on blowing up filters. It is number 154, and it's called Shatter, Limiting Beliefs and Filters to Change Your Life. And I will put that one in the show notes. But again, it's number 154. So what we want to do with these filters, and we have to understand what these projections are. Let me just tell you what a projection is. In case you don't know, it's like when we have these internal beliefs within ourselves that are unhealed. It's like a wound. It's a gaping wound inside of us. We then see the world through the lens of that wound. In other words, we're not seeing clear reality. We're seeing the world through our lens of that wound. So even if her boyfriend was not flirting ever inappropriately, wasn't doing anything wrong, this client of mine was still feeling jealous and was getting so triggered by him because of, my guess was, it's a trigger because of a projection from an old wound that had not been looked at yet. So that's what we did. So we went into her childhood. I went searching. Around. I'm like, there's something in here and we are going to find it. And we found out that her father was an alcoholic and actually had left the family when she was a young child. And she was, this is the key, really, really close with her dad. And it was one of those things where he went to work one day and everything was fine. So she thought, she was very, very young, and he never came home. And it was devastating for her. And she remembers having all these memories of asking her mom where her dad was, when is he coming home, et cetera, et cetera. She felt very abandoned. So for all these years, she's been walking around with an abandonment wound that was unhealed. Think about if you cut your arm and you're bleeding and it never scabs over. That's what these internal wounds are like for us. If they are unhealed, it's like they're bleeding and they're just sitting in our unconscious mind and they're ready to be triggered at any time. So remember, and you guys know, I've done multiple podcasts on triggers. I love triggers because triggers help us to discover what our unconscious, unhealed wounds are. So triggers are a good thing. In my opinion, I see them as a gift. I love being triggered and I'm hardly triggered anymore. But when I am, I love that. And I go digging for it. So I'll put one of the trigger podcasts in the show notes as well. So you can go find that. But remember, if you want to look up any old podcast, just go to the search bar on the podcast page and put in the keyword you want and they all pop up. So anyway, I'll put that in the show notes. But getting back to her. So this client of mine felt really abandoned. So for all these years, again, she's walking around with this unhealed abandonment wound. And it's so interesting because she was just projecting this all over her boyfriend. He was so committed. He loved her. She would say, I need this and I need that. And he would step up and do it. And then she would say, that's not good enough. So it was just this constant, again, this unconscious, it's like a little baby volcano that rises up inside of us, or sometimes it feels like a giant one that's rising up. And she didn't know what to do about it. So she was just putting her abandonment wound from her father on her boyfriend. So the lens that she was seeing the situation is within her boyfriend was distorted, and it had abandonment. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So I'm not going to go into how we transform filters and these projections. Again, it's podcast number 154. I just did it a few weeks ago because I just did it and I'm not going to go through that whole thing again. But so then we worked on that trigger and worked on blowing up that filter that she was seeing her boyfriend through and the lens that she was seeing her boyfriend through. And then I had her feel her abandonment wound and realize that it was from her dad, et cetera, et cetera. We went through all of this. We also realized that because of what happened with her dad, she had developed anxious attachment. She had an anxious attachment style. So she felt very anxious in relationships anyway. There was this nervousness that they were always going to leave. So that came up too in that session. It was a really empowering session for her. She had all these new awarenesses about herself. And again, just like I said, number one, the stuff I'm mentioning, whether it's an attachment wound or abandonment from dad, doesn't matter. What's great is to gain awareness about this. So then she could gain, once she understood what was happening, her awareness around this was much bigger and broader. So then she could look at her boyfriend even in a new way. It was so cool. So cool. So I gave her some strategies on how to build secure attachments, most importantly with her boyfriend, and how to express what her needs were. And she left and practiced all these tools I gave her in our session. And this is what turned her around completely. So the part one was slowing down. Part two was working on these things and building up a secure attachment. And again, working on her father's wound. And she came back like 2 or 3 months later. And she came in and she looked like a new person. She said, I'm so calm. I had no idea I could live like this. And I said, that's so cool. I was so happy. And then I don't remember, it might've been 2 or 3 months after that, she came in and she can't come in and scheduled a session with her boyfriend and came in and she sat down and she said, check it out. And she showed me her hand and I was thrilled. They had gotten engaged. So they were there for some pre-marriage counseling to continue on with that secure attachment and also how to have adult relationships, how to have relationships from the adult chair. So that was just a beautiful example of jealousy. And her jealousy was, I think she said 95% gone. And it was really bad in the beginning, but it was at an all-time low. And now what's cool is that then when it crept up again, she had said to me, she goes, now I've got tools and I know what to do. She says, but I don't really care that my now fiance is going to work with all these women. She goes, it just doesn't even bother me anymore. So it was amazing. Anyway, so here's number 4. If you have fallen into jealousy and you're angry and you cannot think straight, we all know what that's like, at least getting angry and you can't think straight. And you can't access your adult when you're in this state. It's like we're just so mad. We're in this adolescent chair. We're just blacking out from our adult chair, let's face it. What do we need to do? What can we do? We need to change our state. Okay, our emotional state. How do we do that? Jump up and down. Do some jumping jacks. I just jump up and down and I just stand in one spot and start jumping. I might yell. I might sing. You can play music. Do some breathing exercises. Even again, slow, deep breaths are beneficial. Remember, when our energy is slow and paced, we're in that adult chair. Doesn't mean I'm not angry. Doesn't mean I can't set a boundary. It just means I'm in this more balanced state of energy. So when we breathe slower, that takes us out of the adolescent, because the adolescent chair, it's so cool to have someone sit in my office. And when I do have my chairs out and they'll say, gosh, when I'm in this adolescent chair, it's like the energy here is moving so fast. My brain is racing. I'm like, yes, of course. But slowly breathing, just Putting your feet on the ground and taking some slow, deep breaths, very, very beneficial for getting you back into your adult chair. Again, I've used this before where you take your whole hand in your palm and you place it on your forehead and one on the back of your head where that occipital ridge is, and just take some slow, deep breaths. That hits all those neurovascular points on the forehead. It really helps to slow everything down and get you out of your amygdala, out of fight or flight, and just breathe. Yoga can put you back into the moment, back in your adult chair. But doing things like this helps you to slow down and bring you back into your adult. And then you can go back again to step one, which is raising your awareness. But you can't think straight when you're in anger and you've lost yourself and your brain is racing. To get out of that ruminating thought and the racing mind, remember, slow down, feel the emotions. That's another thing. Go into drop below your chin and feel in the body what the heck is going on. Even if you don't know which emotion it is, again, yes, it's jealousy, but there might be some others there with it. Get into the body and just feel, gosh, my heart's racing. My stomach's knotted up. I can hardly breathe. Okay, great. Just be with it. Stay in that space and it will pass. Just pay attention to it. You're bringing awareness to it. Here's number 5. Do a self-esteem check. How do I feel about myself? Ask yourself that question. What's your self-talk like? Self-esteem is very important when it comes to jealousy. Do you say things like, my girlfriend or my boyfriend or my spouse or whomever complete me? Let me tell you what, when I hear this, I raise the red flag very, very high. I'm like, that's not good. Once I have someone that comes in and says that, they complete me, I don't know what I would do without them, et cetera, et cetera. Can't live without them. What would I do without them? All of this. Red flag, red flag, red flag, in my opinion. Because what this tells me is that, again, and I also listen. This is interesting. Remember, we can say the same statement from the adult chair and the adolescent chair. So if I'm hearing it coming specifically from the adolescent chair, that's an even bigger red flag. In the adult chair, if I hear someone say something like, they complete me, I'll wonder, tell me more about what that means. I typically ask that question, expand on that. What does that mean when you say that? I want to make sure they're not looking for someone outside of themselves to truly make themselves feel better about who they are. When we do that, that's a self-esteem issue, self-concept, self-image issue. That's the red flag. So when we feel bad about ourselves on the inside or have a lower self-esteem, we sometimes do look for others to complete us, to make us feel better about ourselves. So when they stop doing this or aren't doing this for us anymore, we might start feeling jealous because we need them to make us feel better. So we go from jealousy to anger, and it's not their job. It's no one's job to make us feel better outside of ourselves. Now, it's not to say I don't like a little validation every once in a while. I love to come home and my kids say, how's your day? And I'll say, I had a great day. They're like, I love that, Mom. I'm proud of you. Or my husband will say, oh, you rocked that workshop. I'm so proud of you. That feels really good. But here's the difference. I don't need that to feel good about myself. Hearing someone outside of me say that in the last workshop, a few people came up to me that work for me at the end of the workshop and they said, that was the best workshop ever. I was like, oh, that's so nice. Thank you. But it's not my lifeline. It's like a cherry on the sundae. I've already got a sundae because I'm doing it for myself. I've been raising my self-esteem since I was probably 25, and I will continue to do it till the day I die. And I do that by validating myself, by seeing when I'm doing something good. That is not selfish. That is not, people say, that's too much praise. No, stop saying that to yourself. To build self-esteem, we've got to look at what we're doing well in the world. And you say that to yourself. Like I said before in other shows, I'm a really good mom. Was I a perfect mom? Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. Did I try my best? Yes, I did. And I own that. Am I a great friend? I try to be, and I think I am. Do I mess up sometimes? Absolutely. I'm human, but I try my best, and I validate myself for that. I validate myself for that. That builds up our self-esteem. I look for when I do things well and I say, good job, Michelle. I am my biggest cheerleader. I have to be, because what if someone's not around? What if I'm not getting enough of it from someone else? I don't ever want to lean on anyone else to build myself up. So jealousy weasels its way in when we have low self-esteem or our self-esteem isn't as high as it could be. I don't think it's a black and white thing. I remember thinking in my 20s, because I'm a black and white thinker and I always work on gray now, but it was like I either had low self-esteem or high self-esteem. It was a win-lose battle. So now I realize I'm just always wanting to build my self-esteem higher and higher and higher. And I think, again, it's a lifetime journey. So think about it like that. Don't get stuck in the box of, I have low self-esteem, because I meet all kinds of people. I remember myself back in my 20s. That was low, but I always knew people that were lower. So what's the bottom point? Well, it doesn't matter. Just continue to grow your own. But let's get back to the jealousy. What we want is for someone else to, instead of complete us, to compliment us. And I don't mean compliment like you look nice. I mean compliment like putting on a new pair of shoes or a really great pair of shoes with an outfit, and it just makes that outfit look great. So we don't want another to complete us. That's the takeaway here. It's not healthy. And when you feel a strong pull to another, or an unhealthy or out of balance need for another, and when they're not showing up in the way that you want, check yourself. Think about this. When you feel a strong pull to somebody, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. It's not to say you don't love them or like them, but when it's an unhealthy, and we all know when we're being unhealthy, I think sometimes we're very unconscious to it and we need others, but when something feels out of balance, when we lose ourselves, that's when we know it's out of balance. So we do not want another person to build up our self-esteem. That is unhealthy. Number 6, healthy relationships contain trust. If you find yourself falling into jealousy, ask your partner about it. If it's a trust issue, or any issue, honestly, but let's just talk about trust for a minute. If you feel like you can't trust your partner, your boyfriend, girl, whoever it is, you need to gather information. This is what we do from our adult chair. Gather information. This is what healthy people do. If I have a concern about a relationship that I'm in with anybody, and I am feeling like I might not be able to trust you, I'm going to ask you about it. Can I trust you? This is what I'm feeling. I have some concerns. Having concerns comes before jealousy, right? It's like heightened awareness again. It's that intuition. If you feel that way, then ask about it. There could be a valid reason for your concerns or your jealousy. If you cannot trust your partner or the person that you're in a relationship with, perhaps it's time to end that relationship. Trust is paramount in any relationship. If you're constantly feeling jealous, constantly feeling jealous, and it's because you don't trust that person, perhaps they're just not the right person. You have people that come in now with all this social media, and they talk to me about how their so-and-so is messaging other people on Facebook, and their beloved is saying, oh no, we're just friends. Don't worry about it. It means nothing, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's kind of bullshit. I hate to tell you. Why are you messaging other people on Facebook? You shouldn't be doing that. If you're in a relationship and it's a committed relationship, it's not okay. It's not okay. Now, if they're purely just a friend, all of this, and I can sit here and talk about this all day. If it's got to be secretive, there's a trust issue. Why you got to hide something? People tell me, well, my so-and-so doesn't let me know what his code is on his phone to get into his phone. Are you kidding me? Why not? If you're in a committed relationship, why do I have to hide? I leave my phone out all the time. My husband knows my code. My kids know my code. My sister knows my code to get into my phone. A lot of people know my code. I don't care. I have zero to hide because I trust these people. If I cannot trust you, that's a whole other issue. And that might mean that the relationship's over. So when we are, again, this goes back to jealousy and trust and all these things, but let's just end on that note. If you feel jealous because someone's doing something behind your back, it's not about you getting in touch with your jealousy and healing your jealousy. It might be a sign that your relationship's done. Number 7, control does not equal love. I hear this all the time. I had a couple, this is an extreme case. I'm just going to share this one example with you, but there are many, many, many types of control that people do in relationships. I had a couple that came in and the husband was tracking his wife on her phone. They were like in their 40s. And he was saying, I really love her. And this is normal. And if I didn't love her, I wouldn't want to know where she was. And I worry about her throughout the day. And I'm very jealous, is what the husband said. I'm very jealous. So I just feel like because of the love that I have for her, it's important that I track her and I check her spending, because I'm in charge of the budget. So I need to know, what are we spending every month and what is she spending every month? He was so controlling over her. It was so unhealthy and he could not see it in the least bit. And he called it love. And he said the root of it was that he was jealous and this helped him with his jealousy. If it were me, I would run so far away from that relationship. It would take me 2 seconds. Like, that is so unhealthy. So that's not jealousy. That's control is the point here. And the wife even said to me, he is very jealous. He is very jealous. And this really helps him with his jealousy. He doesn't get so angry with me when he knows where I am. I'm like, oh my God, this is abusive. Now we're talking about anger. So anyway, the conversation I had with this couple just kept getting deeper and worse by the minute because she was telling me how upset he gets when he doesn't know where she is. And it's all because of jealousy. That guy had issues. He was abusive toward her. So control does not equal love. If someone is jealous and they start controlling you, that is not love. That is abuse. Run away. Don't walk away. Run away. Okay? It's sick behavior. I'm just letting you all know. Sick behavior. Okay, here's the last one. We want to listen to our friends and family when they're sharing information with us about us or even about our loved one. So, and I follow this. I really believe this is true. If someone that knows me well brings something to my attention once, because it's hard. We have to have unbelievable self-awareness to catch everything that we say and do. It's hard. I rely on my friends to share with me, hey, did you notice that when you did that, that didn't feel so good to everyone else? Did you notice that? I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never want to hurt anybody. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll thank them once, and then I raise my awareness around it. But if we hear something twice or 3 times from people, we want to make sure, is this mine? Is this someone else's? Because oftentimes I hear this in session with people, whether, again, it could be with anybody, but it's when 2 people are in the office with me, and it could be mother-daughter, mother-son, couples, it doesn't matter. But they'll say, I noticed that when my mom does this, it really hurts people's feelings and she doesn't even know it. She just gets really controlling. And I had this happen actually recently, and the mother said, I'm not controlling. She got very defensive. And I said, and I shared with her what I just shared with you all, which is, when someone shares something like that with me, I'll thank them. And then I do my best to raise my awareness around it so I can catch it the next time it may happen. And I asked this woman, I said, has anyone else ever said that to you before? That when you offer your opinion, it just doesn't feel good, etc. And she said, well, yeah, my son said it, my husband says it, and she listed all these people. I said, well, there might be something to talk about then, because when you're hearing it from all these people around you, it might be time. So if someone in your life says that you're being jealous for no reason, or you're being jealous and it's a good reason, listen to them. Listen to them. Sometimes our friends or family will say, hey, your beloved is acting a little bit off, and I don't see you having any concern around that. Does that make you jealous? Does that make you angry? It might not even be in our awareness or landing on us. So pay attention. Is something going on that you're missing? Pay attention. Typically, people will say to me, oh no, he would never do that, or she would never do that. No, and they blow it off. Well, it's like if people are bringing it to your attention, it may or may not be true. I'm not saying to listen to every single thing that they say. All I'm inviting you to do is to raise your awareness around it. That's it. So if someone says, I'm wondering why you're not jealous, or are you being too jealous? That's the other flip side. Sometimes people are constantly jealous. I've had that happen too, where people are just jealous, like the very first client I talked to you about just now in this podcast. But that girl was jealous, and her friends were saying she was too jealous. And finally she came in and she and I worked on it. But it took a while from all of her friends and family saying your jealousy is out of control. So if you're hearing that, listen to people that love you, that are in your life, and take it seriously, process it through yourself, raise your awareness, and then take the next step, whatever that is. Okay? So think of jealousy as a guide. It's not bad. It's really a part of our internal guidance system. And when it's clean and not part of a projection, it's a good thing. Like, I want to know. I've used that example before with fear. Fear is not bad. Jealousy is not bad. If I'm walking out to my car and it's through a dark parking lot and it's 10 o'clock at night and nobody's around, I hope I have some fear because that'll make me be a little bit more cautious. Jealousy works in the same way. It's not a bad emotion, but when there's too much of it, just like if we live with too much fear, it can stifle us, right? Too much jealousy, it's either our issue or that person that we're in a relationship with is doing something that is creating so much jealousy and lack of trust, it might be time to end that relationship. And if that's the case, it's okay. You've got to be willing to go through the pain, to end the relationship, grieve the relationship, and move on. That person just might not have been for you after all. It might not have been the best relationship. So accept it, grieve it, move on. You might be better off without them. Okay. Whew. That was a good topic, I think. That was a much needed topic. So thank you for all that wrote in about jealousy. I do take your recommendations seriously and I write them down. And as we move along, I get to them as soon as I possibly can. So thank you for that. And for those of you that are enjoying the adult chair and you want to learn more about it, and you want more adult chair in your life, come join us in the membership site. This month, we're doing self-compassion. I'm so excited about this month. It pairs so well with last month, which was self-love. Go to theadultchair.com/membership, and you can get all the information there and join us. We've got such great information. And then remember, you have access to all the months since we started. All the private podcasts and guided meditations and journaling prompts and Q&As that we've done and all of it. And it's a very beautiful Facebook group in there as well. Great questions. And again, I go in there and I do some really cool pop-up videos, live stream video kinds of things that you also will have access to. So tons of information in that membership site. Okay, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you seated right here firmly in the adult chair in a week. Take care, everybody.